Mahalo kako. I just want to mahalo Kuhio, CNHA. This gets better every year, and really, it's our privilege, our honor to be here. All of our students, all of our staff. And so sometimes, when we look around, when I look around at Kamehameha schools, I see lots of things happening. We have 3,304 staff members. And I have to say it in the right way. They're all doing their thing. And sometimes, you wonder, how do you keep it all together? Because I always feel like my job is to really make sure we have the greatest ōiwi leaders and let them do their thing. But how do we make sure we're not all over the place? And so for me, this organization has one through line. And that through line is really established by Bernice Pauahi Bishop. And that through line is ʻēola, because if we, in our work, whatever we do, because we have ʻāina, we're in the classrooms, we're in the boardrooms, but wherever we are, we have to do it through ʻēola. We have to do it through our culture. We gotta know that when we walk into the room, we bring into the room our ancestors, our family members. We bring into the room Princess Pauahi and our li'i. How do we represent ourselves when we're in that room? That's what we ask our students. When we're in community, how do we serve communities? How do we be with communities? How do we make sure we do our work through them? We ask our students to do that also. And then when we're out there doing our thing, we gotta be the world's best. We have to compete at the highest of levels because the competition is that great. So when we know our students are culturally grounded, when we know that they're working through and with their communities, and they're world-class in what they do, we know our lahu is gonna thrive. Just as importantly, with all of our staff members, our 535 kumu, all of our work on our ʻāina, same thing. How do we work with our community? How do we ground ourselves in our culture? And I hope when we have this panel today, we'll have a chance to discuss that. I'm told that my sole role here is to introduce Kaleo. So I'm gonna do a good, because Kaleo told me what to say, I'm gonna be really careful. So, Kaleo, he's one of our amazing ōiwi leaders. And I gotta read this correctly. The one and only, let me say this right. The one and only, I gotta say it right. The one and only, the unstoppable, sporting a record of 30-0. I'm gonna ask you about this. Is that 30-0 or 29-1? 30-0, your record, your win-loss record. 30-0, okay. The unstoppable, Kaleo Manuel.
Mahalo nui, Jack. Thanks. That was a fun introduction. Aloha mai kako. O wau no Kaleo Manuel. No ka'u mai au. No keia mokupuni o moko keawe. So it's great to be home. I just want to thank Jack for being a great alaka'i for ʻāina Pauahi and our trust at this point in time and where we're going, what we're going through throughout the state. But today's panel is really to uplift our leo Kaiāulu, our community voices, some of those kupa o ka ʻāina that have really paved the way for resilient communities, ʻāina stewardship in their own communities throughout the state. My background is I spent about 10 years, a decade working with Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and then most recently 5 years with the Water Commission. And so a lot of my time is spent working with trust. And I use that in the context of building trust with community, uplifting the trust in government and community, and also these perpetual places and organizations, right? Princess Pauahi, Prince Kuhio, the work that they did as alaka'i of our lahui. So if we can, let's just kick this off. We'll start off with quick introductions, 5 minutes maybe, or talk however long you like. But because we're in Kona, we'll hand it off to Auntie Elena Ala to start us off.
Aloha. Thank you, mahalo for the opportunity. I'm Auntie Lei Kekealani Leitner, and I am a resident of Pu'uʻonuhulu. However, I'm also a resident at Kaupulehu, Makai. Kalaimano at the present is where I am employed. It's an interpretive learning center. And For me, just being pa'a ʻāina is enough. You know, I started at Kono Village back in 1972 and has never left that ʻāina for 53 years. So I'm mahalo, you know, and it's helped me become who I am. It is the birthplace of my father, my grandmother, my great-great-grandfathers. You know, so I'm home. When I leave Pu'uʻanahulu, I leave home. But when I go down Kaupuleu, I'm home as well. So, yeah, that is home for me.
Mahalo nui, Auntie. We'll just keep going down the line, but maybe we'll jump to Oahu. So I was fortunate to catch the plane over with Auntie Kau'i early this morning. So you want to introduce yourself and your pilina to Punaluu, Oahu?
Aloha, Belina Mai. I may take a little more than a few minutes, if that's okay. I was honored and humbled when Crystal called me and emailed me and requested that I come sit with these folks and speak. And if you don't mind, I'm going to speak from a presentation that I gave about a year ago following it was a celebration of Kamehameha School's Bishop Estate Punaluu Stream Restoration Project. If I become too long-winded, you can... Yeah, okay. I'm Margaret Kau'i Oka'avapuhi Matun Weiss. I'm a proud Kamehameha Kapalama graduate from 1980. I was raised in Punaluu by my parents, Kathleen Matun and Creighton Matun, environmental activists from the 70s. If you know, you know. And I was raised in Punaluu. My mother grew up in Punaluu. My grandmother, Mary Ahuna, was raised by her Hanai Tutu, Kopaya Kamahalo. Tutupaya also raised my great-grandfather, Joseph Ahuna. Punaluu has been described as a place of abundance, he ʻāina momona. I recall growing up in Punaluu, hiking in the valley, picking ginger blossoms. I'm not used to the microphone, sorry. Gathering awapuhi buds to make lei, gathering plumeria to make lei. My uncle Jira had a pig farm just below his house that he ran, helping him gather guava from the farm next door, catching a hole in Punaluu stream. The fish weren't that big, but Grandma Mary said they were her favorite. Gathering limu near the shoreline and scooping opai from the water with the opai net from the shoreline. And Grandma would flip it on the beach and we'd pick. It was just, that's how we grew up. Punaluu translate as diving spring, implying a spring of fresh water. My mother suggested that it was the cool spring water that you can feel oozing up through your toes when you're in the ocean and your feet are in the sand. And I recall being in the cold stream in the valley in the morning, and then later that day being in the warm ocean. And yes, we were some of those Kolohe kids jumping off of the bridge into the brackish water where the stream met the ocean. We consider Punaluu's ahupua'a to include the smaller ahupua'a, Waiono, Puhe'emiki, Kapano, Haleaha. I live on Haleaha Road, Papa Akoko, and Kaluanui. I tell people that it rains every day in Punaluu, contributing to the lush, verdant environment. Punaluu provides the water source for Ko'olauloa. While researching what I was going to share with you today, I came to the realization that Kamehameha School Bishop Estate lands total about 3,600 acres, or approximately 60% of the larger area that is called Punaluu. You may all know this history, but this is just a refresher. In the 15th century, Kalamakua, the ruling chief of Oahu, is credited with establishing numerous ʻāiwi, or irrigation ditches, and agricultural terraces. These were used for farming primarily taro in the Ko'olauloa. Kahana and Punaluu were a main source to Ko'olauloa. During the Great Mahele in 1848, the original land title of Punaluu Ahupua'a were awarded to descendant of trusted elder and advisor of Kamehameha the Great. Much of the lands changed hands among the existing royalty and were eventually passed from Ruth Ke'elikolani to her cousin, Bernice Pauahi. So from Ke'elikolani to Bernice Pauahi Bishop in 1883. Kamehameha School's Bishop Estate are currently caretakers of much of Punaluu Ahupua'a. My ohana hold the original document signed by King Kamehameha III, Kauikeaoli, awarding land to Tutupaia. Tutupaia signed over the document to my grandma Mary, Ahuna. My brother Creighton Uolani Matun Jr. maintains the home on the small parcel that Grandma Mary passed to our mother Kathleen. In the 1800s, Bishop Estate leased land to Chinese immigrants who farmed rice in Punaluu. Since it was so wet, Bishop Estate leased property to James B. Castle, who leased it to Japanese immigrants to farm taro and pineapple. The Punaluu ditch system was then created to irrigate sugarcane. There was a train that ran from Kahana to Kahuku at that time. Sugarcane was farmed until 1970s. Subsequently, land in Punaluu Valley has been leased to various farmers to grow different crops and animals. Okay, after all that history, we would like to acknowledge Bishop Estate for implementing the stream restoration project. Punaluu has been historically impacted by water, diversion, stream channelization, unprotected stream crossings, land grading, and alteration of natural drainage patterns that resulted in untimely flooding. Livestock grazing, aquaculture, and residential development, as well as invasion by non-native aquatic plants and animal life. In other words, the Punaluu Stream Restoration Project is Bishop Estate's kuleana. The community is optimistic about the future of agriculture in Punaluu and the continued preservation of the ʻāina we come from. That is our collective kuleana. This is our kuleana. And we look forward to the shared venture. Mahalo for your attention.
Mahalo nui, Auntie. Mahalo, oh, you found your glasses. Mahalo nui, I love how you paint a picture of, well, ʻāina and time moves on, right? There's community and ohana that are pili to those places, and they persist throughout all that change. And so thank you for being there. We'll hand it off to Kaipo. Some of you, most of you that are regulars at the CNHA conference are probably ʻāina to this guy. He did an amazing keynote last year talking about his kuleana to Lahaina and kamalu'ulu olele. So I will hand it off to you to maybe do an introduction and your pilina to Lahaina.
Mahalo. First off, I just like aloha these two wonderful women. Oftentimes in our work, we find that the women are the ones that follow through. And I'm fortunate enough to be supported and surrounded by many powerful women. And I think that's really why you find me sitting in these seats, is because of all the great work that they do. I come from Lahaina, proud graduate of Lahaina Luna High School. Still young. I get plenty of gray hair showing up, but I just can blame that on Zoom. I get on a wonderful life, you know, cool breeze, calm, gentle. Oh, I said life, I meant wife. She's in the audience. That is my life. We have 4 children. They're all Kaiāulu students now. My oldest is in Papa Umekuma Kahi, and my next one is right behind her. And I have my 2 smallest now in Mala'o and Papa Ekahi. Yeah, we just, you know, we're not really anything big. We're just people. I reference us as from the sticks. Lived a life of being able to be surrounded by many of our kupuna, and I was just hungry to listen and be in their presence. So whenever I found opportunities, I would make sure that I would find time to be there. And as I got into high school, I was on troubled youth, so many of us may have connections here to Hawaii Island, and myself as well. I was shipped off from home, and I was sent to live in Hilo with my older sister. So, go Vikings. I spent my freshman and sophomore year in Hilo High. It was pretty rough. I went from hot and dry to soaking wet. And pay tribute to Anake Donna Swain. She was definitely, her and her family was a backbone for me when I needed it, and set me on a path where I think is definitely influential to where I'm at today. Went home and just went into life, you know, listening again, finding myself still in, I guess they call them troubled youth programs. And it's where I found one of my mentors, Ke'o Moku Kapu, who's now my father-in-law. He was the one that brought me into the circles of our kupuna. And we used to take them across our town, and I had, you know, those old school recorders, like, had the discs there inside. Never have the chip yet. That was my job, to hold the tripod in the van while we drove around Lahaina, and just as soon as they would say, "Oh, you remember over here," and was like that, Keomoku would pull the van over, and we just would let them talk about what they remembered. And so for me, that's I got to see Lahaina in a different lens for a lot of that time frame. We did that for a good amount of years. I'm pretty sure none of those kupuna are here today. That's just kind of what I think put me into this spot, and I just always try to find how I can honor them and keep them proud. And I guess now is my time to start my story. Anake was talking about back there, you know. Our kupuna, the story no change. They have an established time frame of everything they've done. And for me, I feel like although I've been doing a lot of work for a few years now, I'm still just getting started. And yeah, so I'm just trying to honor them and keep up all of their work and the things that they've told us and made it important for us, you know, whether it was our conditions of our community in housing or the protection of our ōiwi and the malama of our sites, as well as taking care of our kupuna and our kamali'i, and definitely the protection of our wai. Those was the conversations and the stories that I was around, and I don't know, now it's just my turn to keep that work going, and that's why I'm here today. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui kaipo for that, reminding us the importance of taking time to tell stories and to listen and spend time. Maybe if we can jump into it a little bit more, and this is open to the group and the panel, but we have an Moʻomeheu schools, right? As ʻāina, and that you guys are all kind of pili to and stewards of, and you all have pasts with the trust. Some good, some bad. And so, you know, right now there's this momentum that's been created, I think, post-fires on this token term, let lahaina lead, right? Or let community lead, and how do we elevate those community voices in inspiring, really, our decision makers to make decisions that benefit our local community, our Native Hawaiian community. And so maybe if you guys can share maybe an example that you've experienced where your community's voices were heard, or maybe not heard, right? And what happened? What is one of those stories that you can share with us here today? Any order.
2 days ago, we had a wonderful session with Kapa'akai o ʻāina, and that was, to me, such a wonderful review of a path being made, and the diligence of the community, the Aloha for ʻāina mission, vision. And it wasn't about self. It was about place. It was about resource. It was, about ancestral lands, and what would happen if we did not engage. So, Kaupulehu has journeyed well because of community stewardship, because of community involvement. Moʻomeheu School has, been the father over all, but still a supporter. And as a, Kekeokaina of place, my father, like I said, was born at Kahuwai before Kona Village even existed. The mo'olelo of the place is of the people and of places that every time you go on to the ʻāina, you're not just at Kahuwai, you're not at Mumuku, or you're not at Kalaimano. These are people that we have to respect, and your behavior, your mentality has to be aware of that. It's not about you. So community involvement was not to just go and speak for the ʻāina for place, but to also represent themselves, their kupuna. And for Kaupulehu, it's journeyed well. Today we are in the effort of Tri-Wait. I don't know how many is familiar with that, but we are in our 8th year of this conservation effort. And again, it would not be as it is rich, resourceful, resilient as we've seen it come from 2016 to this present time. And it's something that for Ente reflects where, I'm with children all of the time. And I really don't like to just show them picture or tell them stories. I want them to live, to engage. When we go down to the kai, they make pa'akai. They go into the tide pool, they feel, they touch the petroglyph. Not just look and listen. They engage, they become connected. And community involvement allows that. It allows the voice of the people to say, Moʻomeheu school, try listen, and they have. And so for, the community that we have right now on Tri-Wait is a collaboration of organizations that come to the table and they know their purpose. It's not for come namu namu, it's not for come and point finger. We have a purpose, we address it, and we try to make it better. And when we see the results within this past 8 years of a table's collaboration of organizations, the state, Oha, Moʻomeheu School, Kamaina of Place, developers, we're pleased. And we're in, I said our 8th year. I always tell my daughter, I'm over this. So we went and looked to them, and it just so happened that this new generational thinking called AAI, Ahupua Acceleration organization, is something that's come about for my mo'opuna, for my daughter's successors. And we're good with that. We're there to support, but they gotta run the game now, and it's like Kaipo here, He's been blessed to be with kupuna. So has my ohana. My dad was someone who was a man of the land, and his example spoke louder than words. And so I think, my ohana has learned well, but now I see the trek they're on, the path they're on, my ka'i. And so mahalo to community. Village raises a child. It's like old school, but it worked. We cannot lose that kind of mentality or thinking. Today, it's, you mind your own business, you mind your, aloha no.
Mahalo, Auntie. I love the makahana ka'ike, right? You just gotta get in and jump in and learn, right? Mahalo nui.
It's hana. It is work, but it's not for me. It's for place, it's for my mo'opuna, it's for the community.
For me, I would say I'm going to focus on our water. Lahaina can talk about its water wars from the time of our crown. Early on, many of our kanaka have identified the impacts that the plantations have put upon us. You can find it referenced in a court case of our kingdom, Kumuli'ili'i versus Horner. And it set a good precedence for the rest of our kingdom and what is now today the occupied state of Hawaii. We speak of our water rights, and I believe that Lahaina was a key part of establishing that as a part of law. So it wasn't that we just started fighting for water. Our community has been fighting for water for over 100 years. And 20 years or so ago, I learned at our cultural center, which was in on Park at that time, title research, land commission awards, looking at documents, understanding, pulling on some resources to help us translate many of those documents. And Kamehameha School's ʻāina legacy lands of Ke'eliʻikolani was identified in Lahaina as one of our last ahupua'a that are of a magnitude in Lahaina that was undeveloped. And in our research, for me, it was, we didn't even begin the discussion with Kamehameha Schools in any way to find ourselves to be on that ʻāina. But it was always an opportunity that I saw that we could still bring some of our parts back. We may be erased from the fire today, but many of our footprints were erased prior to that. And learning that path that our kupuna had laid, I say 8 years now, I think it was, that we found that opportunity to engage with Kamehameha Schools, the trust, and have access to ʻāina. So I've been managing a educational agricultural center in Kuʻia. So we do a lot of work with our youth and as well as our makuas. And I welcome any kupuna to come in. I never asked them to work. But if you know kupuna, you can stop them. But in our space, our community had to get together. Our water systems were exceeding their thresholds. Systems needed to be shut down and turned off because the chloride levels were reading high in the water samples. And so we were really living a thin line where we were on the end of not being able to sustain our own population unless we started to look at desalinization and stuff like that. And I don't agree with any of that, because if we cannot malama the original source, we just can start depleting another one. And we're only learning the impacts of us depleting that first source today. What impacts will our future kupuna have to deal with should we start to deplete another resource or another source? And so we came to seaworm. We hooeyed up. We got as a collective numerous times over years and years. I mean, Maui has a long history, whether it's what is identified as East Maui, but it's the Ko'olaus and Hana and Kipahulu, and all of those ohanas have been diligently fighting for their water. You have Nawaiʻeha, you have Honokohao ohanas. History can show you on steady track of us maintaining a pulse and a conversation about our water. And Lahaina, at one point, we became the focus for the state. If you guys look at the 1991 Water Code, it kind of speaks to the subject matter that all of our watersheds should be identified as a special management system. And there's a lot of adaptive management that needs to happen there. And then there's all the politics of different landowners and interests like that. But when we came together as a collective in our community and we approached Seaworm and the PUC and all the different other ABCs, we managed to identify our concerns and bring them forward. And the solution came to be that not only one source of that vine needs to be designated, but both. So there's what they identify as a groundwater and a surface water system, kind of self-explanatory. Groundwater is anything under the ground. Surface water is the things that flow through our streams. And so as that became a reality, change began to happen. Kamehameha Schools had committed to their contribution in that effort and committed almost 100% of the stream diversions of Kahoma and Kanaha, which border the north side of Lahaina town, to Kahoma Stream. We saw the life return there. Kaiāulu, which is the southern border stream of Lahaina town, was a little bit more sticky and tricky. Was helpful that Kamehameha Schools had ownership of the ʻāina where the intake was, that the plantation established. So it was a little bit easier to work in that system, which is important for us to understand when you have the ali'i to lean on and you willing to stand in the trench and do that work, we can get plenty of things done. I hear my kupuna say, Kamehameha Schools gotta be the bully in the room. They're the only one that can. And I think I see now, I think I know why they're not the bully. But they're there, and they're doing the work. And so today, Kahoma Stream still flows from Mauka to Makai, which in my childhood time never have. And so, That's one good example of what can be done when that kind of a collective work happens. The state, local governance, our biggest ali'i standing, and the community together. That's one good example I can share from our place. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Kaipo. I think that's a good segue maybe to Auntie Kau'i. You talked about vai and streams, and Auntie, you talked about the Punaluu Stream Project that Kamehameha schools worked on. And maybe just to quickly summarize, during the plantation, the lessee straightened the stream. Kamehameha schools just recently recreated the stream to operate and function the way it historically did, or how it should function hydrologically. And so maybe, Auntie, if you can talk about how you engaged in that, what your, as a descendant from Punaluu, how we worked with you and your ohana in that process? Just,
Hello.
a little bit.
Sorry, I have my glasses on now. I recall my mom and dad doing so much work with Kamehameha and with, like the watershed board and all that. And it is that important that people from the community continue to do as they did. You may have heard of Keep the Country Country. Back in the 70s, my mom and some other friends got together and they created Keep the Country Country. And it's not about don't develop, it's about planned development. And this is speaking outside of, I'd say outside of Kamehameha. It's just development in our state, residential, agricultural versus commercial, and what is the importance of water, for life, for agriculture, and for the residents, versus draining it all towards development. But that's my speak. And I know our minutes are ticking away.
By the way, we have a big screen here
got a
telling us
screen.
we have 5 minutes left. So,
But I'm really pleased and excited to see this many people here listening and having conversation.
I'm nervous.
no, mai kai. Mahalo, Auntie. Maybe we have 5 minutes left, so maybe just to kind of slowly wrap us up. Mahalo nui for sharing real examples, right? Whether it's the tri-weight in Ka'upulehu to stream restoration in Kahoma and Kaiāulu, and even the recreation of our stream in Punaluu. How much more beneficial it is when we work with community, uplift those voices, have them lead, have them design the future, right, for their own community. So mahalo nui for all that you three have done in leading and alakaiing that way. Maybe a question. There are already leaders in this room, or what we call alakai, right? We have the governor coming up next. We have a mayoral debate tonight with some of the candidates. We have our trustees in the room. We have Jack, our leader of Kamehameha at this point in time. As community and kupa o ʻāina, right? Do you have any mana'o that you want to share with them? Here's your captive audience of decision makers and leaders. What mana'o do you have to share? I mean, be the bully was something you said, but I don't know if that's going to work. But if beyond that, like what kind of sentiment do you want to leave with, if you can each share 1 minute of time to our decision makers and even to this community here that's here to kako'o and be part of this ohana?
I think, government makes the decisions. We have it in the county, state level. You have your councilmen who are the ones who make these decisions, but sometimes they're only looking at paper. They're not on the land. They don't see the actual events of place. They don't see the people that are going to be impacting or the resources, but they're the deciding factor. And for me, when we have issues, bills that are going to be passed and the councilman is sitting at the table, but a friend would say, oh, you know, he never know about that, so, you know, we got to invite him to the meeting so that they can be aware. To me, it's not just the people going to the government. Sometimes they got to come to place when they make decisions. Once their word go down, it's supposed to be what? Law. But do they know what they're making laws for? Who they're impacting? Where they're doing these things? And so, you know, before we used to have site tours for government to come, and we'll take them na ʻāina, so that they know when they're going to decide who they're talking to, what they're impacting. And for me, that's the team. There's two people on the game, not just one-sided. So I'd like to have more government people know what they're talking about, not just from what they read, but someplace.
Mahalo nui, mahalo. Okay. If you have any mana'o that you want to share?
I'm just going to say kako'o. Like,
Eo. Yeah?
she said it the best you could ever say it. I probably would murder that whole conversation, so.
Oh my kai. Auntie, you want to add anything?
I'll use my microphone. Auntie, you were talking about our keiki not having the same life experience that we had. I have 12-year-old twins at home, and I want them to experience as close to what I did, as can, being able to, I used to be able to walk 2 miles down the beach to my uncle's house all by myself. I'm 10 years old. You don't worry, now you do, because we have a different population and we have a different world. But I don't let them go to the beach without me. And quantum leap to the having government officials present when we meet. I'm the vice president of Punaluu Community Association, and we invite our government officials to all of our meetings. And some send representatives. That's a good thing, at least, and they take questions to the representatives, the senators, and they can address them when they come to the neighborhood board meetings. So that's a good thing. But continuing to have government officials present in the community is a good thing.
Mahalo. Mahalo, Auntie.
Mahalo.
All right. So that 45 minutes came and went. I just want to mahalo our panelists here. Mahalo Kuhio for allowing us to be here. Mahalo to Jack and our leadership at Kamehameha. But we look forward to continuing to partner with community and uplift community in a resilient future of stewardship and where ʻāina Pauahi takes us. And so mahalo nui for spending time, and mahalo nui everyone for coming. And I think that's it. The lights went out. Aloha.